What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 365 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's your boy KB, your boy Deej coming at you. We're doing another OTB After Dark, baby. Things might get a little frisky up in here. You never know. They just might. We got a fun show planned. We're going to dive into the NLL action, wrap up last week, dive into this week's games, a loaded slate, 6 marquee matchups. We will also get into PLL Free Agency that has been an absolute frenzy, talk about some potential moves that almost every single one that's happened we predicted on last week's episode. And then we'll also get into the college game. And Deej, we have a voicemail, and you have a public address for the people.
Yes. Yes, I do. Don't quite like the position I'm in, but hey.
Hey, I'm just saying, I can't believe we made it on Stick Talk before making it on Stick Talk.
Crazy. They knew better than to do me like that.
That's wild.
They could at least brought me on so I could defend myself.
I could have been in the background.
We see how they do us, though. It's cool.
It's all love to the boys, though.
Of course.
Eventually, we'll be big time.
Yeah, right. We'll be big enough to get on there.
But yeah, shout out to the boys. Go listen to Stick Talk. They're the best. But before we get into everything, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB LaxPod across the board. Follow Deej at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me, KBIZZL311. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. No Hoots on the ground this week, but I'll be flying high with the wings at the Wells Fargo Center. Again, it feels like it's been an eternity since I've been at the Wells Fargo Center. And then follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave us a 5-star review. It genuinely goes a long way for helping not only this show continue to grow, but all of our shows on the network. We've gotten some new subscribers trickling in. Rumor has it maybe a couple of them are Brian Holman, Roy Colsey, Spencer Ford. You never know. But subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify. Leave us those 5-star reviews. And Deej, I know you said last week you were curious after we banged out a 3-hour episode. One of our most listened to episodes over the last 2 months.
Fuck yeah. Let's go, people. That's what I'm here for.
So yeah, subscribe, and subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It is all on our YouTube channel. We're at 1,031 subscribers, which means we're a nice 69 subscribers away from hitting our next goal of 1,100. Keep subscribing, leave a like on the video, drop a comment in the comment section, and click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. And if you want the OTB College show, we've kind of hit a lull, everyone. You know, a lot of people said that, hey, we want the show. Well, you got to pop out and show us. Subscribe to the OTB YouTube channel, youtube.com/@OTB LaxPod. We're 49 subscribers away from the OTB College show coming at you every Monday on the OTB YouTube channel and on the podcast feed with Deej and Hoots. So if you want that show, subscribe to the OTB YouTube channel.
Please.
Yeah, they're cooking. They're cooking in the shadows, guys. Like, you don't understand. They're ready to rock and roll for this, and they want to bring it to the people. Still plenty of time. We still got time before, all the madness of college lacrosse tournament season rolls around. So if you want college analysis each and every week, subscribe to the OTB YouTube channel. And of course, guys, this show is proudly presented by our good friends at Shootout For Soldiers. And upcoming this weekend is their first event of the season, full-fledged, Houston, Texas, March 8th and 9th. Still time to register. You can register, I believe. I'm going to pull it up right here, actually, just to make sure. And this is pretty cool. Shootout for Soldiers has already surpassed their goal of $15,000 for the event. So keep donating, keep getting involved. Pretty sick that the top individual, Julian Shapiro, has raised almost $2,000, if I'm reading the metrics here correct, which is wild. Good for them. And I believe you can still register up until the event begins. So definitely register. It's still open. Plus all of their events for the 2025 season, including Atlanta, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Long Island, Massachusetts, Ohio, Canandaigua, Virginia, Colorado, and Baltimore, all open for registry. Get involved. It's bringing community together with the sport of lacrosse to support our nation's veterans, and especially in a time that we're living in right now, we definitely need that veteran support. So this is a beautiful way to do it. Use our link in the description. It's shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. Learn how to get involved, register, donate, volunteer, become a sponsor. All of that info is at shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. And we thank Shootout for Soldiers for being a proud presenting partner of the Outside the Box podcast. Deej, we finally went with our gut last week. And it paid off because, once again, road team dominance shined through in Week 14 of NLL action. Some other things that shined through during Week 14 and post-Week 14 as we head into Week 15 is somehow, some way, even though anyone we've ever interacted with in person, online, or in between has had nothing but glowing and wonderful things to say about us, whether we were there or not. Every time I am somewhere, I constantly am asked, where's DJ at? Where's DJ at? Anytime I interact with people, they're like, so good to see you, so good catching up. And it feels great. It feels great to know that the community genuinely cares about seeing us, whether it's NLL, PLL, college, in between. They care. They want to see the boys. Apparently, somehow, some way, we still have haters.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You would think we did something to somebody.
The crazy thing is that when you take things out of context and try to slander one's name, you act like I'm not going to see it. I see everything. I got eyes everywhere. Okay? I got them enhanced senses. Call me Daredevil. I be hearing things. I be getting things sent all over the place. People got my back. People got Deej's back. People got anybody that works at this company's back. So when you are out there trying to sneak diss the boy, trying to slander my name, when you know my handle, you know my DMs are open. You're just trying to cause a ruckus. I'm not talking about anybody in particular per se. This could be a number of people, because apparently we got ops. They must have heard ops week and thought we were asking for ops. But you know my DMs are open. And it's not even the protected open DMs. They're open to anybody. You don't gotta be verified to DM me.
Mm-hmm.
You can have an adult conversation and just talk like a normal adult. But sometimes people don't want to act like normal adults, and they want to get a rise out of people, and they want to try to get people to turn on us. And here's the thing. I speak for Deej on this when I say I, and when I say I mean we, and when I say we, I mean this company. I work way too fucking hard and have worked my ass off to get this company to where it is, to get our name out in the open where it is, in a multitude of rooms that, quite frankly, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, we have no business being in these rooms. But there we are. We've worked our asses off from the jump when it was me and Dom, when it was me and a former co-host to a degree, and then ever since Deej came on in 2021 to now. Damn, we've been going for a whole presidency, bro.
Yep. We've been at it, bro. Different level.
We work too hard to try to have anybody twist the perception on what we do. Because guess what? We're open and we're candid and we just say what's on our minds because we want this sport to succeed. We want our own personal brands to succeed. And we want this company to succeed so that we can wake up every morning at some point in time, hopefully sooner rather than later, and everyone that works at this company is collecting a paycheck, going into an HQ, and we get to interact and work with some of our best friends on the internet each and every day. So for people to try and twist things out of context from a clip that we put out last week, speaking on the Toronto Rock's owner, who, quite frankly, people I've heard from, we're not the only ones that feel that way about the way that Jamie Dowick has gone about this season, from his preseason quote on, I believe it was Lacrosse Unclassified with Jake Elliott and his co-host that I'm totally blanking on, and I apologize for that, to the team crumbling due to injury and other unmitigated circumstance, to then trading off players, and then seeing people trying to parade around like, oh, we have all these draft picks. I'm not coming at fans for that. I'm not pointing out so-and-so's Twitter handle and saying, oh, you're a fucking dipshit for parading around draft picks. No, I'm talking about the general population of sports fans, not individual fans, not a team's fan. I'm talking about the people who go around and say draft picks are like the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's not necessarily fans of that team. That's not necessarily fans of our show. That's not necessarily fans of the game. That is that weird sector of sports culture that believes draft picks are holier than thou. And it has trickled its way into lacrosse more often than not. That's where that came from. And guess what? Did Deej flip a double bird? Sure. Does it matter? No. What's the old saying, Deej? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. If you're hurt by 2 middle fingers, what are we doing?
Hey, no, I do just want to say though, y'all be careful what y'all say to people. Words do hurt.
Yes, of course.
Go on.
But in this context, a little sign language is not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah, nah. Quit being
okay. Like that was harmless. And the fact that internet people get a little bent out of shape because we're not afraid to speak our minds on what is going to benefit the sport, and we're calling out a piss poor year of ownership and leadership for what is supposed to be a model franchise in the National Lacrosse League, by all accounts. Sorry that we hurt some feelings. Because guess what? At the end of the day, what did I do all last year, Deej? When I was going to Wings games week in and week out, I'm fully credentialed with the team, and I'm beyond thankful for that. Have been since year one of the team being back. I think I was one of the most candidly critical people talking about the Philadelphia Wings. I wasn't bashing the team. I wasn't, this, that, and the third. I have a lot of relationships with that organization from top to bottom, from players to coaches to GM to ownership. They listen to this show, okay? I can be perfectly open. People in that organization, top to bottom, listen to this show. And guess what? They respected my opinion. And because I call out a team who fails to even acknowledge we exist, that we also have a shit ton of friends on that team. You look at that roster and the guys who have been on the show, the guys who follow the show, the guys who in person will tell us, yo, we appreciate what you do for the game. And I'm calling out the big dog up top who doesn't know we exist, as far as we know, for doing a piss poor job. Like if we were bad at our job, I would want somebody to say it. And that's what I was doing last week. That's what you were doing last week. We were calling out somebody for being bad at their job because we want them to be better. And I frankly compared it to the Toronto Rock organization, not the players, but the organization put on this front like they're the New York Yankees. Like that's what they come across as. Like we're the tradition or this, but no, you're the modern day St. Louis Cardinals. You fell off a cliff, you got old, and now you're scrambling to fix things, and you look like clowns doing it. So if you in the future, if you're too afraid to leave us a voicemail, speakpipe.com/OTBLaxpod, my DMs are open. If you have a problem with me, DM me. If you have a problem with Deej, DM him. If you have a problem with Hoots, DM him. If you have a problem with Chase, I don't know if he's going to answer his DMs because that boy is busy as fuck right now with them Elon Athletic Department boys and girls. Shout out to Chase. But I'm sure he'll take the DM request. Okay, we're not afraid to talk things out because guess what? At the end of the day, we're grown adults. We can have conversations. And at the end of the day, this is a podcast. Okay? We go on the show. We speak our minds. People listen. Whether they agree with what we're saying or not, it's our opinion. Isn't that a beautiful thing, Deej?
It is. Opinions are beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing.
But you know what they say? They're like assholes. Because we all got one.
That's fair. There's an added part to that sometimes gets added in around here.
I might be terrified to hear it.
Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one and they all stink.
Oh, yeah.
But that more so gets reserved for everyone's got an excuse.
Yeah. And those do
not all opinions stink. But yes, for future reference.
A lot of them do.
Valid. For future reference, if you're too afraid to leave us a voicemail, that voicemail line is always open. Speakpipe.com/OTBLaxpod. My DMs are wide awake. They're like Katy Perry in this bitch. Slide in the DMs. You don't even got to take me out to dinner first. Damn. Slide in the DMs. Let me hear it. If you got a problem with me, I'd rather you confront it to me person to person than try to take things to the internet and try to get a rise out of people and try and just create a narrative about me that's just not true. Point blank.
It is nasty work.
And who knows?
That's all I got to say about it. It is nasty work.
It's crazy. Like I should not be getting multiple text messages of a screenshot of our clip that we put out from people, multiple DMs from people, and me being like, what the fuck is going on? Also, news to me, apparently through the grapevine, I heard I was apparently nominated for Media Person of the Year at some point. It's news to me.
Say swear.
I don't know where that information was made privy to, but I was never told one way or the other. I never saw my name as a finalist.
Maybe you were nominated, but just didn't make it as a finalist.
Apparently, it was in my Twitter bio.
Swear.
I haven't changed my Twitter bio in years.
It was in your Twitter. Huh. You sure?
Now, I know this podcast was globally nominated for a Sports Podcast Award. Nominated. That's why we say award nominated at the top of every show.
We definitely ain't win.
We didn't win. We didn't make it to the final cut, but we were nominated.
Shit,
I'll
if we
take that.
did,
I wear
if
that
we
as a
did
badge of
win,
honor.
you know.
Facts. But apparently I was Media Person of the Year finalist. I'll have to talk to some people this weekend at the Wells Fargo Center and see if that has any credence.
Right?
Because apparently the Philadelphia Wings nominated me, from what I heard through the grapevine. News to me.
Okay.
This was told to me in a past tense as well. It's not like a new
I see you, Kyle.
thing.
I see you, KB.
Kind of crazy. News to me.
Bro, I did not know I was sitting amongst
Neither did I.
such royalty. I'm sorry for not treating you better, man.
Crazy, man.
That is my fault.
Wild stuff. Now that we're 20 minutes into this thing, let's get into our week 14 wrap. It's brought to you by our friends over at Buff. Guys, the new season of Survivor is now out, which means new Survivor buffs are available on Buff's website. We love to see it. Buff is genuinely the number one go-to for your neck wear, your head wear, to protect yourself from the cold, the wind, the sun, all of that. And let me tell you, these Survivor buffs for season 48 look sick. A little purple and blue action, a little green and teal action. They look fire. Buff is our go-to during these cold months, and best believe once it starts getting warm out, we'll have the buffs on. We'll have the baseball hats on. We love Buff. They're truly the best. They are like I've known about Buff for 3 decades almost, and they are genuinely one of yes, valid, confirmed. If you want to call me old in the DMs, go ahead. But Buff is truly the best. Use our link in the description. Shop all the new Survivor Buff collections from season 48 and everything that Buff has on their website, from the Gators to the Shiesties to the running gear, the everyday beanies, skiing, snowboarding, hiking. They've got it all. Use our link in the description, and we thank Buff for sponsoring the podcast. Week 14, Deej, we went with our guts, like I said. And road teams went a collective 3-1. Home teams go 2-3. I don't even know if that math is correct or not, but I think it is. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, maybe.
Math is hard, y'all. It's OTB after dark. Fuck you heard about. Nonetheless, we went 4-1 in our picks last week because we went with our guts and picked the road teams for the most part, and Rochester came through as the home team for us. Georgia went belt to ass on the Ottawa Black Bears, 15-9. Albany loses 14-7 at Rochester. Buffalo survives Saskatchewan 9-7 out in Saskatoon. Calgary fall to Colorado in Colorado 11-8. And then Halifax take down Vegas 9-5. That's a massive win for Rochester. I know it's Albany, but we talked about it last week. We'll start there. We talked about it last week saying, like, if Rochester does what we expected them to do, and that even went back to last week, which put them at 5-7, like, Rochester's right back in the thick of this thing. They're 6-7. They're in 7th place in the table, and they took care of business when they needed to against an inferior team in terms of just play this year. And those boys dominated. Goalie play was fantastic for Rochester, and they're right back in this playoff hunt. You know, they shut out Albany in that first quarter, scored 6 in the fourth quarter. They went 5 for 8 on the power play, all while losing the faceoff battle. Obviously, Joe Nardell is going to be that boy, but Albany was on this 22 penalty minutes for Albany, 8 power play opportunities for the Nighthawks. That's not a winning formula whatsoever. Connor Fields led Rochester in scoring and the game in points with 7. Plus, I mean, that fourth quarter, 6 goals were unanswered to end the game. It was 8-7. Game was firmly in grasp for Albany, and then Rochester went on a 6-0 run to end the game. It begs the question, Deej. With Rochester being so flip-flop this year, a couple weeks we'll have a Rochester team like this, and then all of a sudden they lose it, and it's like, what happened? Do they have enough right now on this team, top to bottom, to stay in this playoff hunt, stay in the top 8? And if not, with the trade deadline looming on March 10th at 3 p.m., so by the time we record next week, the NLL trade deadline will have come and gone. What does Rochester have to do to solidify themselves as a playoff team? Because they're right in that mud of, you want to put, Colorado there at 7-5, and then all the way to Ottawa at 5-6.
I think they have to start to separate themselves from those teams. Those are the games you're going to have to start winning, is those teams around there, because honestly, I don't think anybody in that group is going to separate themselves. So you got to have tiebreakers. That's what the seeding is going to come down to, and make sure that you're playing good enough defense to where if you do lose a game, it ain't by a lot of points, and you're winning by as many points as possible, keeping that score differential in a nice place as well. You just want to try and take control of what you can control, which is tiebreakers, winning games against like opponents, winning games against opponents in the same area as you, and then the score differential. That's really kind of got to be their main focus right now. Is that middle of the pack area is going to be rough. It's going to continue to be rough until the playoff picture is solidified, and you're going to need those tiebreakers to be in a good spot.
And here's the thing. Rochester has scored the most goals for this season in the entire league at 153. But on the flip side, they've given up the second most goals in the entire league at 158. The only team who's given up more are the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, who have given up 164. So it's like they're scoring, but they're also letting a whole hell of a lot of goals in on the back end. And I think that's where we said it early on with Rochester as we watched, their first pocket of games or so. The back end was leaky. They were letting in a lot of goals. They didn't have their starting goalie to start the year, having their goaltenders having to stand on their head for a majority of games. I don't think it would be outside the question if Rochester is attempting to go and get somebody for that defense, make a big swing to say, hey, we're firmly going for it and pushing our chips in the middle of the table to kind of be in the mix in the playoffs, because we have the offense to do it. When you have guys like Connor Fields, Ryan Smith, Thomas McConvey, Lanchberry, and all the rest of the supporting cast going out and scoring goals the way that they are, you got to have the back end solidified to a degree so that all that goal production doesn't get wiped out immediately, and then you're playing catch up. So that was a great win for them against Albany, where they kind of controlled, late in the game what Albany was able to not accomplish, and go on that 6-goal run to end the game, get a +7 score differential win. Their goal differential is now only a -5, which is huge. And they're in 7th place in the table. So a huge win for Rochester, a huge home win that has been few and far between for a lot of NLL teams this year. On the flip side, Georgia and Ottawa. Georgia goes absolute bonkos on them, 15-9. I think Ottawa's trending downward. For a majority of the season, they were kind of staying level-headed, 500, goal differential was right there, even Steven a little bit. They're 5-6. They're the last place 5-6 team behind Vancouver, Philly, and San Diego. I think if you're Ottawa, and I know this is difficult to stomach probably if you are our guy Rich Lisk and the front office of the Ottawa Black Bears, year one there kind of has gotten off, the rails a little bit. I think you got to be sellers at the deadline. Try to get some picks, try to get some pieces that you get them in the building now to have here for next year and build a little camaraderie and chemistry with Jeff Teat and the rest of the team that will be here. I think you have some anchor pieces if you're Ottawa, whether it's Higgy, Teat, Larson Sundown, Connor Kiernan, Riley O'Connor for however much longer he's got, left in the tank of solid, prime years left. But I think the biggest thing with Ottawa is they don't have anybody on that defense that really stands out to be like a force. And I think you've got to accumulate some picks to kind of just have as many darts to throw at the board in the draft over the next couple of years to kind of build your defense through the draft almost. It's difficult to find defenders that want to come to a team. They're kind of like in a limbo of like, we're on the up and up, but we're not quite there yet. I think that's what Ottawa's course of action has to be. So I think if I'm in Rich Lisk's shoes, I'm looking at some guys and saying, who can I get draft capital for? Can I get anybody player-wise to bring in here? But I think Ottawa's got to look themselves firmly in the mirror right now, kind of see how the season's unfolded and be like, all right, we gave it our best shot. We, provided a spark to the league with the resurgence of lacrosse being in Ottawa. Now it's time to assess this roster and kind of put ourselves in a position to get better for 2025, 2026.
Yeah, and I think the coaching staff kind of has to ask themselves what's the difference between this Ottawa team and basically the same roster that was playing in New York the year before. I think a big part of it is Damon Edwards. He's no longer on this team, and as the captain on that team when they were playing as a Riptide, he was that stone piece, that piece that kind of brought everything together and was a settling piece for them out on the floor, and was a person that kind of just gelled everybody together and was a calming voice in the locker room at all times. And I kind of feel like, not necessarily that they don't have that this year, but I don't think that it has quite the same impact. And you're seeing it on the floor more than anywhere else. I'm not seeing a lot being said and so forth. And obviously, it's not like other sports where you see antics happening off the field quite often. But you can see when they're out on the floor that there's frustration that settles in, and there isn't really that calming voice to say, hey, guys, relax. It's good. Let's just do our thing, play our ball, and things will come back around.
Yeah. And I mean, Georgia puts themselves firmly, in the thick of the playoff race in that top four. So a good win for them. Bandits in Saskatchewan was the game of the week last week for sure. It kind of held up to the bill. Jake Naso did his thing. It was, the master and the apprentice, as our guy Jerry Raganese said, between Connor Farrell and Naso at the stripe. Naso won the battle. Here's the thing. Saskatchewan could have won this game. They had plenty of opportunities. Number one, they got shut out in the third quarter where Buffalo scored 3 goals. And on top of that, Saskatchewan only went 1 for 5 on the power play. When Buffalo affords you 5 power play opportunities and Buffalo went 0 for 1 on the power play, a very disciplined game penalty-wise for the Rush. If Buffalo's giving you those opportunities, you have to cash in as often as possible. And it was unfortunate that they weren't able to, finish there. But nonetheless, a fantastic game, and it would not shock me if we see these two teams again in the playoffs.
Yeah, we probably will. And there's a good chance that they meet up in the final, and I think that would be a great final in just the way that those two teams have played this year. It lived up to everything it was supposed to be, but kind of like you pointed out, it was the small things, the turnovers, the loose balls, the not cashing in on, the power play opportunities. Like, all of these things add up over time, and it leads to you giving just enough space for a very good team to come and steal a win, and that's exactly what happened. I think Saskatchewan learns from this a lot, and I think they move
Mhm.
on and continue their dominance throughout the season. And I don't think there will be many other teams that will be able to stand in their way and hand them an L, as they have just come out and really kind of taken it from everyone that they've been on the floor with.
Yeah. Um, Floor's yours. Calgary dropped a tough one. On top of that, we got the news that in their game against the Desert Dogs, Zed Williams tore his Achilles. He's going to be out for the rest of this NLL season. Will more than likely miss a majority, if not all, of the PLL season. So, Water Dogs fans, I feel you. That's tough. Zed's one of the best ambassadors for the game, one of the best players in both leagues. And when he's not out on the floor of the field, the game is much worse. So wishing Zed a speedy, healthy, and successful recovery, and looking forward to seeing him back out on the floor probably sometime in December, I would say, in terms of, how rehab will go. I was talking to my dad about it, and because Zed's an athlete in a physical contact sport with a lot of planting of the leg and motion and everything, it probably, and this is all just, speculation. This is not a full-blown diagnosis because my dad didn't see the injury. But my dad is a physical therapist and works with rehab and everything. He said it's probably on the closer side of the 6 to 9 month recovery rather than the 4 to 6. The average everyday human can probably recover in a 4 to 6 time frame, but because of, the physical aspect of Zed's game and the sport that he plays in particular, it's probably a 6 to 9 month recovery. So sending our best to Zed in his recovery and wishing him nothing but the best. But Deej, in my opinion, you guys lost this game in the first quarter. That's
Yes.
where you played even the rest of the way pretty much, and you won the fourth quarter, but 5-0 in the first quarter is tough to overcome. Both teams went 0 on the power play in this game. You guys dominated the stripe. Inacio won 15 of 23. Just didn't have enough in the end or the beginning, however you want to kind of look at it. But I think that's more so where the Roughnecks kind of lost the plot of this game, was in that first quarter, going down 5-0 and having to claw their way back in to make it anywhere close to what it was and just kind of go even Steven the rest of the way. There just wasn't enough at the beginning of the game to kind of keep things level-headed.
Yeah, I mean, first off, good game by the Mammoth. They came out and did all the right things at the right times to be able to pull out that win. I think um, they kind of cracked the code to winning at home in some of these tougher games. You got to get out to a good start. It's hard to win in a place like that once it gets the energy behind it. And if you're going to start the game with energy, you're already behind the 8 ball, and this place is loud. It's going to be tough to get back into that game. And Colorado did a good job of managing the momentum of the game and just the gameplay overall, the pace of the game. So, yeah, good game to the Mammoth, but there isn't a lot to say. There's moving pieces on the defensive end right now, which is a lot to deal with. And that makes that tough. So you're going to give up some goals. And I mean, we ran into a relatively hot Colorado team with a sneaky goaltender of the year candidate. It should never be sneaky when Dylan Ward is mentioned, but he was on no one's radar based off of the last calendar year he had with both the Mammoth and the Water Dogs. And he's been absolutely unbelievable so far this season for the Mammoth.
Yeah, big time win for the Mammoth, to get a home win, defend home field advantage there, and stand up for the hometown teams to get a home victory was huge. And then obviously Halifax take down Vegas. They just were the better team on the floor, quite frankly. And we are in transaction season, so a little news around the league too in terms of players that are on the move, players that have been traded. We've had some moves happen since we last recorded. One of the big ones, our guy, friend of the program for a long, long time, KJ47, Kyle Jackson, on the move from the San Diego Seals in exchange for a 4th-round pick in the 2025 entry draft and a 2nd-round pick in the 2026 entry draft. from the Albany Firewolves. So KJ on the move to Albany. San Diego gets 2 draft picks. Obviously, we don't really know what those draft picks will be yet, but Deej, your thoughts on KJ going to Albany to salvage something with the season that they're having, try to get a spark in that room with a veteran presence. We are obviously both big fans of KJ's game and KJ the person, but does this help Albany in any way for this season, or do you view this as a more, let's get a veteran in the room who's local to the area? You know, KJ and Dana and their family live in Connecticut, so it's not that far from Albany, and kind of have him here for next year and get things going with Ty Kurtz, Alex Simmons, and the rest of the young guys on this team.
This is weirdly one of those times where it's both. I think it can help this season and kind of give them a little bit of a jump start to help give a good, like, I think ending a season on a good note kind of helps with the season following. It just puts a good spin on things. It gives you something good to fall back on and remember from the year before, and to kind of be like, okay, this is where we were. Let's get to this point when we're next. Ending on a bad note kind of just leaves a sour taste, which sometimes works out in the best and how it motivates you, and other times it kind of trickles into seasons beyond that. So him coming in could really help them come out in a positive way toward the end of the season and have some very positive things to look back on from the season and to really use to boost themselves to where they want to be next year, where I feel like he'll have even more of an impact.
100%. And, we were talking about Rochester making moves. You knew we were going to talk about this one. The Vancouver Warriors traded the boy, Brad McCulley, to the Rochester Nighthawks in exchange for their 6th-round selection in the 2026 entry draft. And what I think is more important, the 3rd-round selection in the 2027 entry draft, which is, for all intents and purposes, the Trey Deer, Joey Spallina, all those boys draft. It's one of the more loaded classes in NLL draft history. Accumulating picks in that draft, I think, is vital for any team. So to have any selection there is huge. So Vancouver gets a very important draft pick in terms of just what it represents, as well as a 6th-round pick in 2026 for Brad McCulley going to Rochester. I think it's a huge move for Brad to go to Rochester in the short and long term. Solidifies, some of that defensive woe that they've had, and gets a championship mentality player. He obviously played for the Bandits before getting traded to the Warriors, knows how to win. I think it's a huge move for the Nighthawks, and Vancouver gets some valuable assets in return.
Yeah, I think this was a smart move on both sides, where, you get rid of a guy that is going to be able to help that team, but is not a detrimental loss to you in multiple ways, and helps you get a little bit younger, but also gives you a chance to get some of the best prospects that are coming into the game. The other side is getting a great player that's going to come in and find his space in the locker room and on the floor and gel into a team that is looking to make a push. And he's the kind of guy that can come in and help on that defensive end, kind of solidify things and be like, hey, let's look at this. Let's do things this way. Let's be calm. Okay, we just gave up 2 goals. That's fine. The offense is going to get at least one of them back. Let's get another stop and push and transition. Like, those things are going to be important when you're getting into the late months of the season and you're going to need to win games.
Couldn't agree more. I love the move for Rochester. I think that's the type of move you make. Like, it's not a big swing where you're giving up so much, but you're also getting a very valuable player who has championship experience. Bring them into a locker room that's filled with great vibes, across the board. And it's a position of need at this point in the season for them. So good move by Rochester. The Philadelphia Wings released Anthony Jochum from the active roster. I think that's kind of a move that was like, because they acquired Corbeil and Desnu, got to make room for him on the roster. Anthony kind of came in late, and obviously he's been a part of the organization before, but got signed late in the season to come in. And now it kind of gives Joker a chance to go and get more playing time somewhere. I'm going to miss him. I liked Anthony being, back in the organization, but That's just the business side of things, unfortunately. But I think that's more so just a inevitable move when you acquire 2 defensemen. You got to make space for them. And Joker was kind of the short end of the stick there, but I'm sure some smart team is going to pick him up because, again, championship pedigree player. Would not shock me if he ends up going back to Rochester, honestly. Help solidify that defense. And then today, the Georgia Swarm traded TJ Camizio to the Colorado Mammoth in exchange for their 3rd-round pick in the 2026 entry draft. And in a corresponding move, the Georgia Swarm placed John Rannigan on the active roster from the short-term holdout list. I like that move for Colorado. You know, you lose Zed Williams, you need somebody to step in. Boom. TJ Camizio, I think, is one of the more – I know we don't like using underrated, but I think he is underrated in the pro game. He doesn't get talked about enough for how good he is, especially in the NLL, and how he's really taken his game to adapt to the NLL style. I like this move a lot for the Mammoth. I think he's going to be a good fit for them.
Yeah, I think this is a move where you're looking to step away from the teams that are around you and put yourself in that top 4 championship contender situation. I think that the Mammoth look a lot more similar to those teams where they were in the NLL Cup, where they won that cup. They look a lot more similar to that, and this is another addition that puts them closer to that than it does, to what they looked last year. I think they're really proving that last year was a one-off year, and I think this is one of those moves that screams we won a championship.
Some alternate universe, that number 1 overall pick doesn't get traded to the Riptide and then correspondingly gets traded to the Wings. How much do you think Colorado's front office is like kicking themselves sometimes that they traded that pick and they could have had Brennan O'Neill?
I mean, but could they have ever imagined it would be Brennan O'Neill?
No, but now, just like in hindsight, it is funny to look back that like that pick was Colorado's even before it got to the Wings from New York, now Ottawa, and just thinking like Brennan could be one of those players too that's in one singular market as well. I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he's in Philly for sure. But it is funny that in some alternate universe, Brennan O'Neill is playing for the Colorado Mammoth.
And probably killing it.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the crazy part.
Hoots is probably punching air as he listens to this part right here.
Which is hilarious. I need live reaction video.
We need a video. Run that thing. We need the video of you punching air right now. But yeah, that was the week that was in the NLL. The standings, the Bandits at the top at 9-1, Saskatchewan 9-3 right behind them. Both at 7-4 are the Halifax Thunderbirds and Georgia Swarm. Colorado 7-5. Calgary is 6-6. Rochester 6-7. San Diego is 5-6. Philadelphia is 5-6. Vancouver's 5-6. Ottawa's 5-6. Toronto is 3-8. Vegas is 3-9, and Albany is 3-9. As we shift to the Week 15 preview, everybody, we got 6 games this week in the National Lacrosse League, Friday and Saturday. Toronto at Halifax gets things started at 6:30 Eastern, followed by a 10:30 Eastern nightcap between Roch Vegas and Las Vegas out in Las Vegas. And then also at 10:30 Eastern, we have Vancouver at San Diego. And then on Saturday at 6:30 Eastern, the game that was sold out on Wednesday, the Buffalo Bandits playing host to your Calgary Roughnecks in a rematch of the 2019 NLL Finals. And then 7 Eastern on Saturday, I'll be in the building. The Philadelphia Wings playing host to the Albany Firewolves, the return of KJ47 to Philadelphia. And then 7:30 Eastern, we have Saskatchewan at Georgia in a battle of the 2017 NLL Finals, I believe. Georgia, the one team that prevented the four-peat. What are you most looking forward to this week, Deej? A lot of loaded matchups, a lot of rivalry games between Halifax and Toronto. San Diego and Vancouver has evolved into a fun West Coast rivalry over the years. Obviously, Buffalo-Calgary is a big-time matchup. Albany and Philly is a rivalry. What are you most looking forward to this week?
For whatever reason, Rochester and Las Vegas is always a really fun game. So I'm actually really excited for that tomorrow night. Can't believe I did that. Friday night. I don't know how I feel about Vancouver and San Diego. I kind of feel like Vancouver is going to go in and wash them. Like I've been not necessarily wash, but
Be the better team.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about Vancouver this year than San Diego, but that still has potential to be a very good game as well. Second best game of the week, I think Saskatchewan and Georgia takes that. But
Yeah,
of course, it arguably could be game of the week, but I'm not going to pick that over playing Buffalo. I'm terrified. My heart is literally beating out of my chest. But game's going to be fun. The boy Rosie's got a new bucket. The goalie mask he's wearing is literally sick. And yeah, so that game should be fun. And then we know what we're getting with Toronto and Halifax. So the only game that I'm not all that excited for is Wings game. Sorry.
See, I'm excited from the fact that we get to see, I would assume, Mitch DeSnew and Chris Corbeil for the first time in Wings uniforms. That has me excited to kind of just see them out on the floor there and see what they do to bolster the defense. And then on the flip side, as you said, we know what we're getting with Toronto and Halifax. What are we getting with Toronto with multiple guys being traded away since the last time they played? That's going to be fascinating to watch.
Listen, but it's still Toronto.
That's true. I will say I think Saskatchewan, Georgia is the game of the week. Like, those two teams are playing extremely well right now. That's a huge swing game in the standings between those two. Not that Calgary and Buffalo isn't, but Buffalo is so up here in terms of their record and everything, and Calgary's in that mix of the teams right in the middle fighting for just positioning. But Saskatchewan, Georgia, Georgia wins that game, they're tied in the standings record-wise. And if Saskatchewan wins that game, I think that's a clear sign of dominance where they are. To go coast to coast, go to Georgia and win would be huge. So I'm very much looking forward to that game, and I'll have it on my laptop as I'm up in the press box for sure, peeking in on what's going down. I think, rightfully so. I think anytime you play Buffalo, you have to be a little nervous if you're a fan. But I do think Calgary Buffalo is going to be absolute scenes. Like, that building's going to be sold out. It's a rematch of a championship game in recent history. Two prolific offenses. And I think if you were going into this game prior to the Nick Rose trade, I would be a whole hell of a lot more nervous for Calgary. But Nick Rose knows how to play in that building. And I think that's an added benefit to what the score could inevitably be. So I think that's something to definitely just keep in the back of your mind if you're watching this game and how it unfolds, being that Nick Rose is the one in cage rather than any other goalie that you could think of that would have been prior to the past couple of weeks. I'm excited. I think it's a lot of good games this week to tune into, whether you're a diehard fan, you have a team you're rooting for, a casual fan. A lot of fun lacrosse is going to be happening this week. And I think we're poised for potentially trends flipping. You look at the home teams. Halifax is at home. San Diego is at home. I know you're leaning more towards Vancouver, but they're at home. Could be an even matchup. Philly, can they get that home field advantage back? Georgia's at home. This week, Buffalo's at home, obviously. This could be a week potentially that we see some swings in the home teams finally taking home some wins.
Yeah, I think this week is a little more interesting. It makes picks a little bit harder because some of the road teams have been really good road teams. But some of the home teams, they're in a position where they know they need to win. Some of the home teams are playing competition they're better than. And some of the home teams are really just set up and need a win. So it's going to be interesting to see the energy they come out with and if they're able to steal a couple wins this week.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this weekend. And what better way to gear up for another NLL weekend than by repping OTB? And you can do so with our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. PHI Apparel Company is the exclusive home for all Outside the Box podcast merchandise, from t-shirts and hoodies, Underground Sports Philadelphia merchandise. If you're a Philly sports fan as well, you can rep all your favorite Philly teams, Philly-centric merch, and Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast merch. Go to phiapparel.co, and when you go to checkout, use code UNDERGROUND, and you'll get 10% off your next merch order from our friends at PHI Apparel Company. Again, 10% off your next merch order when you use code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co. Stand out in the crowd and rep OTB with our friends at PHI Apparel Company. DJ, I think there's only one thing left to do with this NLL week.
Feed them duckies.
Feed the ducks. We're going to head on over to the pick pond, feed some ducks, and dish out our Week 15 NLL picks of the week, brought to you by Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a refreshing light beer, just 4.1% ABV, 120 calories, just 8 grams of carbs. Go to kenwoodbeer.com, use the Kenny Finder to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, Pittsburgh, and Maryland areas. You can also get Kenwood Beer at your local liquor stores in those markets. Again, kenwoodbeer.com. Use that Kenny Finder to see where you can get Kenwood Beer ready to rock and roll. And, of course, got to be 21 or older to do so. And please drink responsibly. As I mentioned towards the top of the show, Deej, we both went 4-1 in our picks last week as we were in lockstep. Both had Georgia, Rochester, Buffalo, Calgary, and Halifax. That puts you at 47-33 on the season. And for the first time since we were 0-0, your boy is back at 500. 40-40. As Kramer once said on Seinfeld, even Steven, Jerry. So I'm at 40-40 going into this week of 6 games. We start out in Nova Scotia, the Halifax Thunderbirds playing host to the Toronto Rock. I think you and I are both in lockstep here, as this will be the Jenner cast, as Teddy Jenner and Mackie Jenner in the broadcast booth for this one. I'm taking the Thunderbirds to get a W at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take Thunderbirds here as well. I think the T-Birds get this one here because, I mean, Toronto is a shell of themselves. We have zero clue what to expect from them coming out of all the trades that have been made. So they could come out and shock us, but realistically, I think Halifax is just a more trustworthy team at the moment.
We move to the first of 2 games at 10:30 Eastern time on Friday night. Rochester at Las Vegas. I think getting Brad McCulley in the fold, the offense is buzzing, road team successes. I think Rochester has what it takes to continue building, get to 500, get that score differential above 500, above the 0 mark. I'm going to take the Nighthawks to get the dub.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean on road game success here for this one. I don't really like either team and what they've produced so far this year. I think they've had highlights. I think they've had really bright spots, but I don't think either team is consistent. I don't think either team is really set up to have long-term success this season. But I do think Rochester has enough to get themselves in a position to fight to be playing in May.
Which brings us to the second 10:30 Eastern time game on Friday. The San Diego Seals playing host to the Vancouver Warriors. Deej, your pitch for your feelings on Vancouver taking a dub in this game potentially.
This is another weird game because of how close the Seals and the Warriors are in the standings. They have the same record of 5-6. Really, the only thing separating them at the moment is score differential, maybe some other tiebreakers that are out there with like opponents. I'm going to lean toward Vancouver, and I say this because they have Stathakis at the stripe. I think those possessions may come to be very important in the later part of the game, and they have a better chance of, coming up with that ball than I think the Seals do, due to the fact that Trevor Baptiste is playing.
So these two teams played in January in Vancouver, and the Warriors won 11-9. San Diego is also 500 at home, if my math is correct. They're 3-3 at home this year. I want to see what Vancouver's doing on the road just to solidify my actual pick. Let's see here. Vancouver. So they lost their opener on the road. 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 2-4. Ooh, 2-4 on the road are the Vancouver Warriors. I think I'm going to go Seals here. And I know Stath is at the stripe, but I think the Seals have more offense and have more consistency down the stretch in games, that if things are close, they have the guys that can go and score if need be, whether it's a Trey LeClaire, Ben McIntosh, Ryan Benesh, Rob Hellier, the rest of those boys out there on offense, Zach Currier, obviously. Vancouver's one of those teams that, like, it always feels like if they have a lead and it's close, you're like holding on to the edge of your seat and just hoping they don't blow the lead because they don't know how to close games yet. So I'm going to go with the Seals here to get the dub. I think it's going to be close. Will it shock me if Vancouver wins? Not at all. But I'm going to go San Diego simply because I think they have the capability of closing a close game more so than Vancouver. Which brings us to Saturday. Deej, 6:30 Eastern. Banditland, hosting your Roughnecks.
I hate doing this. Give me the Bandits.
I'm with you. Bandits really have not given us a reason to pick against them whatsoever this year. I know they have the one loss, but
Calgary has given us 6.
All in all, a sold-out Banditland on a Wednesday. Got to go with the Bandits. Which brings us to 7 Eastern. Down there in South Philly, dickheads. Philadelphia Wings back at home playing host to their rivals, the Albany Firewolves. The defensive reinforcements for the Wings coming in. KJ47 coming in for Albany. I said it last time. The Wings had a bye. I said it a couple weeks after the Wings lost that game in Albany. I think that was the wake-up call. Not that I want a team to ever need a wake-up call, but I think if the Wings don't win this game, you put your season in real jeopardy of not making the playoffs. You have to win this game. This is a must-win and can't lose all at the same time. You have to show out, assert your dominance at home, get that home crowd behind you, and really go out and play like you were playing those early weeks in the season. Have everyone contributing and have the defense step up in front of Nick Damute. You can't let him hang on an island by himself. I'm going to go with the Wings and hope they reverse course of what has been, the last 2 months or so of the season and get back on track to being a playoff team.
Yeah, I think this has been more of a can't lose and a must win for the Wings. I think that has more to do with playing Albany and the struggles that they've had this year and what it says about you as a team and what it may feel like in the locker room after losing to a team like Albany in this time of the year. I feel like this is a team that Philadelphia feels like they're better than, and losing to a team that you are better than at this point in the year really puts in seeds of doubt and things of that such. So I feel like this is really a can't lose for the Wings. And I echo pretty much everything you said about gameplay. I feel like those are the biggest issues for the Wings. So they clean those up, and I think they come out with a win. I'll take the Wings as well.
Plus, you have Shane Simpson in the transition game, which I've said since Scott Dominy got injured, it should not be one player getting injured that unravels 1/3 of your approach to a game. Hopefully, Shane Simpson is more than just duct tape on that and really becomes a force in the transition game for the Wings and showcases why you went out and traded a player like Alden Katoni to get him. Final game, 7:30 Eastern time. Georgia playing host to Saskatchewan. In my personal game of the week, I think it is a lot of people's game of the week alongside Calgary and Buffalo, but this is a doozy of a game. A lot on the line for both teams, in my opinion. Can really shake up the standings depending on the outcome. Deej, how do you see Saskatchewan and Georgia playing out?
If I am not mistaken, I think Georgia has the best or second best road record in the league, making them true road merchants. And I think I'm going to rock with them on the road. I think this game will be very close. This game is extremely hard to pick.
So who are you taking?
I think they match up very well. I think it will be a 1-2 goal game. But then again, Georgia's offense could explode and they could win by 6, 7, 8. But I do think this will be a close game that Georgia wins.
So Georgia gets the home dub against Saskatchewan in your book. I'm going Saskatchewan. I think the defensive play that the Rush have established this year has been a complete 180 from what we saw last year. And I think Naso at the stripe, we said it months ago. He should be a Rookie of the Year finalist. He's been spectacular, and I think he combats what Georgia does at the stripe, whether it's Jeremy Thompson or anybody else out there. Plus, Georgia just traded away TJ Camizio. I think that's a big loss for them, in my opinion. Sure, John Ranigan's back, but we haven't seen him in a bit. I think Saskatchewan has what it takes to go on the road, continue the road trend here, and get a massive win. This would be a feather in the cap type win, in my opinion, for Saskatchewan this year. You separate yourself that much more from the likes of Halifax and Georgia and Colorado, quite frankly, and really kind of cement yourself almost in that 2 seed and see where things go potentially if Buffalo drops a couple late. If you can move into the 1, I don't know if you will, but I think if Saskatchewan wins this, they're almost firmly entrenched in that 2 seed for the time being. So I'm going to take the Rush to get the road victory, which gives our picks the semblance of this. Halifax, we're both taking Rochester. You've got Vancouver. I've got San Diego. We both have Buffalo. We both have Philly. You've got Georgia. I've got Saskatchewan. And those are our NLL Week 15 picks of the week, powered by Kenwood Beer. Deej, we are going to shift to the PLL, but before we do, I want to talk to you guys about our PLL app code. Guys, the PLL app is our one-stop shop for all the latest news, notes, and fun from around the Premier Lacrosse League. You get articles from all the beat writers. You get videos, Jerry Raganese's cooking show, which is an absolute pleasure to view. You get trivia every single day. You get the college pick'em. When the PLL season rolls around, you get PLL pick'em. It is truly one of the best apps I have on my phone. It's one of my most used apps, and it's gamified. So you earn levels, you gain experience, and you get new things unlocked in the PLL app for yourself. So download the PLL app, and when you go to the redeem code section, use code OTBPOD. That's code OTBPOD, and you'll get 500 XP on your account. Again, download the PLL app, Use code OTBPOD, and you'll get 500 XP on your account in the redeem code section. Deej, we do have a voicemail this week, and I think it is going to pertain to some of the moves that may have been made by a certain team out in California, from our good friend Josh, host of the Lost in the Woods podcast. So here is Josh's voicemail, which we have not heard yet. We did not screen this voicemail, so we'll see what Josh has to say, and we assume it's pertaining to his beloved California Redwoods.
Hey guys, it's Josh from the Lost in the Woods podcast again. First off, I just want to talk about my San Diego Seals, and they're looking at the playoff standings saying, "Can you take me higher?" So that's always great. You guys told me to, back up and stay off the ledge, and here we are. Second off, can we talk about the Redwoods moves that they've made so far this offseason? And what are your guys' thoughts about the article that came out in regards to the Chris Gray trade and not reaching out to the league to try and get something done due to the uncertainty of him being able to play? Love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And do you think the league makes a move now that it's public knowledge, and, trying to keep good face for the league in regards to that trade? Appreciate it, guys. Talk to you next time.
Can you take me higher?
Get the fuck out of here.
The Creed Seals.
Needed that. Needed that.
To a
Thank you.
place where blind men see.
Thank you so much. Needed that.
I think the rest of the season, whenever we talk about the Seals, we just got to lead it off Creed.
But as far as the Chris Gray trade thing goes, I don't know what the league can do, how much can be done. I think that, if you ask me, is a part of being a lacrosse coach at this level. Guys are going to bow out for other opportunities. We've seen it happen time and time again. Until the sport gets to a level where guys can choose to do this over other opportunities, that's going to happen. I think my opinion on that is what I said last week, is he shouldn't have done it in the first place, knowing that that uncertainty was there. Go get someone else in the player pool. Go draft someone else. Go trade for someone else other than a guy that you know is not 100% committed. That doesn't make sense to me. That blew my mind about the whole thing. When I found that out, I just was like starstruck. Like, dude, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? I get part of it because he decides to play. He has a good season. He bows in. We're looking at this completely different. We're talking about it differently. We're arguably talking about it being one of the best trades Nat has ever done. But that's not what worked out. So now we're talking about it in a different way. Not necessarily faulting Nat for the optimistic view he had on the trade and what it could do for his team. That's his job as a head coach and a GM, is to create those situations, ponder the hypotheticals, and pick the best possible one to see how it works out. That's what he did. It just didn't work out. I get it.
Now, this is interesting in the article, though, not to cut you off, because I didn't get a chance to read it. It's from Rosie, shout out to the boy, on Inside Lacrosse. I didn't know this part of it until now. I don't know if you knew this, or if you read the article yet. So Rosie put in the article on Inside Lacrosse, we'll link it in the description too. Due to potential tampering concerns, Redwoods head coach general manager Nat St. Laurent was unable to speak directly to Gray in advance, which meant he only learned of Chris Gray's uncertainty of playing last year after he had agreed to the trade and reached out to contact him.
I did not have that information. I just knew that he was privy prior to the season starting that was going to be the situation. Now I do feel as though the league should do something because, yes, that still comes with the league, but net probably doesn't make that trade
So here's more
if he
context from the
knows
article too.
prior to that.
He said, I sent Chris a text in the morning when it was getting ready to be announced. I didn't hear anything back from him. I tried calling and texting, and I was like, this is odd. Usually when you trade for a guy, you get a hold of him right away. I ended up talking to him late that night, and he was like, I don't even know if I can play this year. Before I was traded, this is a quote from Chris Gray. Before I was traded, I knew eventually I was going to have a conversation, say, look, here's the job that I'm working. This is what will probably work. This might not work, that type of deal. So I think that was in my future. And then I was kind of blindsided by the trade. And the first thing I think of is, oh man, Nat has no idea. I just wanted to be open and honest with him up front and just let him know the situation I was in, because it kind of made the deal. It kind of made me deal with the situation a lot quicker than I was planning. I felt terrible for him, but the way he handled it and managed it throughout my whole time with him was amazing. St. Laurent was understandably stunned by the news, but never suspected foul play on the part of his trading partner. Quote, I'm definitely not saying that the Atlas held that information. That's not the case at all. Mike Pressler is a straightforward guy. Ultimately, it all appeared to have come down to unfortunate timing, and much to his surprise, the general manager suddenly found himself having traded a first-round pick in a widely praised draft class for a superstar who may or may not have been available to join his lineup. I told the league what happened, and I guess you can't rescind a trade, right? St. Laurent said. The trade was made, and ever since then, I've been trying to work with the league to make it right. St. Laurent contacted the league and inquired regarding the possibility of any sort of official action that could be taken to assist his team or others who may encounter this kind of situation in the future, be it compensatory picks or some sort of insurance policy in the event that a player, especially one of Gray's caliber, ultimately becomes unavailable to his future team. Quote, I submitted something through the league and they're looking through it, but I don't think anybody ever anticipated this happening. And when you're building a league, it happens. And I'm not mad at the league or upset with the league, he said. I've brought it up and I don't think anything will come of it, but maybe moving forward for the next time this ever happens, it will be in place. And that's all I can hope. When my time's up, I leave it better than I find it. Quote, I referenced Tom Brady was a compensation pick for the Patriots, losing a lot of guys to free agency. So I looked into it and saw what some other leagues are doing, but I know the league is now looking into some things because of this situation and putting things together to make sure this never happens again. And I've got complete confidence in the league that something will be in place. It's a new wrinkle to the trade that we didn't know until now.
Yep. That clears a lot and makes a lot more sense. It really makes it clear that Nat wasn't necessarily taken advantage of, but didn't have all the accurate information he truly needed to make a sound decision on this, which then bites him. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Which sucks.
I do think him bringing it to the league, while I agree with what Nat said, I don't think anything's going to come of it now. In the future, absolutely, especially in still, yes, the PLL has been around since 2019, but it is still in its infancy phases as a professional sports league, and people fail to fucking realize that. But I do think something could potentially be put in place now as that safety net, whether it be compensatory picks, which I think would be fascinating if we ended up in a space like the NFL as well, where if player leaves in Major League Baseball at that standpoint as well, where if a player leaves in free agency, you get a comp pick depending on production and the type of player that they are and all of that. Not necessarily coming from the team, but it comes from the league, and then you have an extra draft pick, and maybe you make it so that the compensatory picks can't be traded. You have to, hold on to them, but it's an extra pick in your arsenal for that following year's draft. I think that could be something we see sooner rather than later from the league, if I had to be quite honest, with free agency being a thing. Like, you lose a player, you don't necessarily know how you're going to replace them. Here's an extra draft pick to have more ammunition to replace that player. It sucks that, the tampering aspect of things came into play too. I wonder if the league looks at that, because I forget when this trade was made, honestly, like during the offseason, that tampering was a thing. And I know he's under contract with another team, but like, if you're full-fledged making a move for a player, you should be able to have some sort of contact with them to a degree to make sure, like, hey, like, we're trading for you, like, let's figure out some stuff. It definitely inadvertently Nat got blindsided. And it was not any fault of Mike Pressler, any fault of Chris Gray, or truly any fault of the league. It was just like a series of unfortunate events, and Nat gets caught in the middle of it. And because, for whatever reason, even though we know him on a more person-to-person level, Nat gets, I think, wrongfully criticized in a lot of aspects from fans of the league and such. And sure, a lot of that has to come with teams got to win. And this doesn't help that criticism. But now that this is out there, great article by Rosie across the board, you can't blame Nat for making the trade, especially when you look at it from when it was made. If Chris Gray is in that draft, being the young player that he was only drafted in 2022. It's 2 years later. If Chris Gray's in that draft, he's a first-round pick. So the logistics thinking of Nat in that trade situation is, I'm essentially drafting Chris Gray with our first overall pick, and he's a guy that could be on this team post Rob Pennell, have him and Ryder Garnsey as a tandem for years. Like, as a GM, that's the kind of forward thought you have to have if you want to be successful. You can't blame Nat for throwing that dart at the board, and then you open up the package and it's a hornet's nest that stings you. It's unfortunate that it happened, but I don't think the league will do anything to justify this trade. But I do think the way that the brains of Mike, Paul, Rachel DeCecco, and the rest of the PLL front office work, it would shock me if there's not something in place for the future. And it's like called like the Chris Gray rule. That's what Chris Gray gets remembered for professionally. So that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think this is an important step in fixing the league for the future. Everything kind of has to happen first before something is done to prevent it from happening. A lot of the rules we see with the PLL are based off of what happened with the MLL and other failed leagues. They're putting those things in place to make sure it doesn't happen in the PLL. This is going to be one of those things. They trade for a guy. Circumstances aren't what they thought they are. So now it's going to open up for them to say, okay, what does trading look like in our league? How do we handle it? How do we set a precedent that makes it fair and even across the board for both sides, the player, the new team, the old team, the league, etc.? That's kind of just foolproof all around. But like I said, you have to have hiccups first in order for those things to really come about. You can kind of sit through that and you can put out a plan, but eventually that there's going to be a crack in it because you couldn't have thought about everything that could happen. Things are going to happen first and then you adjust. Now we're in that waiting period to see what the adjustment is. And then we'll be in that period of seeing how the adjustment works once it does come up again.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. But I do think compensatory picks are something we could see in the PLL sooner rather than later, especially with it being a league where it's only 4 rounds and there is so much talent that comes out in these drafts and that ends up in the player pool afterwards. Why not? If you lose a player like, Kyle Jackson, which we'll talk about, or if you lose a Ryan Ogden, you get a compensatory 3rd, 4th round pick something like that. Or if it's a player of stature that, leaves, say, Jared Newman ends up leaving the Chaos, which he's still unsigned, but say he left, I would lean more saying the compensatory pick would be like a second round pick. Give that flexibility depending on the type of player and production that they put up the year prior. I think that would be a very cool little wrinkle added to the PLL to add the compensatory draft pick aspect.
Yeah, I think that would be almost the perfect fix for this. I mean, it's hard to kind of undo it. It's hard to go around and find other ways, but being like, hey, we're going to give you this pick here, make whatever out of it. If it happens in a good year, you're hitting a crazy draft like what we had last year, and you're able to really make something shake. And maybe other years it's not so good, but you're able to find a diamond in the rough. It's all about using the opportunity for what it is, and taking advantage of that.
And like those compensatory picks, whether it be like baseball where it's at the end of whatever round it is. So like say you get a third round comp pick, it's like the quote unquote ninth pick in that round. And maybe like comp picks can only be traded for comp picks or something like that, so that there is still, transactional movement potentially, or maybe they can only be traded on draft night or something like that. I think there's a lot that can be done to add to that if you lose players, and it's going to be fascinating to see what comes of this. And I got a tip of the cap to Nat for, just bringing it to the league's attention. And again, that's what a good coach, a good GM does, is saying, hey, I unfortunately got screwed here. There's no rule in place. How can we fix this for the future? I think that's a smart move by him to just bring it to the attention of the league. And now it's looking like something could be in motion for the future, which is always a great thing to improve the league and makes the PLL a better sports league.
Yeah, I mean, the PLL does a great job of kind of owning their mistakes and then making them right. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for them to do that, and we're going to see how it works out.
Which, speaking of player movement, we've had quite the frenzy to kick off free agency here. Some moves have been made, and a number of Utah Archers are on the move. The boy, Cole Williams, signs through 2025 with the New York Atlas. Very stoked for Cole to get the opportunity to be on a training camp roster, seeing him bounce back from injury last year and play so well in this year's Champ Series, and him getting the opportunity. I'm very excited for him. And, Cole Williams in that midfield playing with Jeff Teat and Shelley and them boys is nasty work. Nasty work. And he gets to play alongside Miles Jones too. Hachi Machi. I'm very excited for Cole. I think it's a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job of putting together a balanced team. They have strong Dodgers. They have big, strong shooters. They have fast, speedy Dodgers, but they also have great guys with vision and passing. They have guys who are pure finishers. Like their offense is complete in having every facet of what you need in an offense. And Cole Williams is just adding to that. He's kind of a mix of all of that in the midfield, and then still has some defensive game to him too. So I'm interested to see him kind of work in the middle of the game, off the wings, in transition, and then just to see how he wiggles his way into this offense. But it should really only make them better.
Also signing with the New York Atlas since we last talked. I don't know when this happened, but Reed Bowering is signed through 2026 with the New York Atlas. Kobe Smith re-upped through 2025 with the Atlas. Miles Jones is running it back. And Danny Logan also signed through 2027 with the Atlas since we last recorded. And also joining the New York Atlas via free agency after spending his entire PLL career with the Carolina Chaos, our guy, KJ47, gets traded in the NLL, moves in free agency in the PLL. He is headed to the New York Atlas on a one-year deal through 2025.
Yeah, he's spent a lot of time in New York now, which I mean is going to be great for his wallet in terms of travel, and will probably allow his family to see more games. But this is going to be interesting as well. I don't think he fits quite as well as Cole does, like as seamlessly. Like I think Cole will step right in and kind of have no problems finding out what he's supposed to do in his role on the team. I think KJ, it'll be a little bit more time for him to really settle into the offense and find his spot. But once he does, I think he's going to hit a nice groove and be a great addition to a great team.
KJ being a feeder to T and Shelley and playing in a potential two-man game with Costabile in that midfield, and just his precision and quick twitch that he has, even at age 31, is exactly what the Atlas offense has in terms of offensive weapons. And I think KJ's style of offense in particular plays very well to what like Brooksy and Pressler want to do offensively. And I think Cole Williams and Miles Jones are almost like that tandem of like big, shifty Dodgers, tall in stature, physical. And then Costabile and KJ are, like you said, that quick twitch dodge and able to get that release. And KJ's not afraid to, get around the crease and get a little dirty either. And I think that's something that the Atlas haven't necessarily had in this era per se, all too much. So to have somebody who, very similar to like Jay Carlson was, the trash man, KJ's not afraid to get close to the crease and get up in a goalie's face and score.
Yeah, I think he's kind of a gritty player that every team needs. And I think it's going to be a great role for him to kind of go in and make some of those dirty plays and kind of provide that spark of energy for this team that they didn't quite have before. Like you mentioned, I think Xander is some of that, but it's just more silky, more smooth, more finesse rather than kind of gritty and about toughness and action on the inside.
And leaving the New York Atlas through 2025 and joining the Boston Cannons is long stick midfielder John Geppert.
I don't know what to expect or how to say much about this. I think we see a lot of players like Geppert in college, and he had a great college career and was fantastic, but like we just haven't seen enough of him in the PLL game and at this level to really comment on how he could help and the Cannons and what his role will be there. I just hope he kind of gets that opportunity to have more playtime and be of avid help on the field on game day so that we are able to have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, he joins Ethan Rawl, Craig Chick. He's 25. Craig Chick is still in his prime. He's 28, but I think that gives you a tandem there. This is almost like a signing for the now, but also for the future, depending on how much longer Craig Chick wants to play. And not saying 28 is old, but we've seen guys retire at that age. But, Ethan Rawls 24, John Geppert's 25. You kind of have your LSMs locked up. And I think this is a move, too, that instead of drafting an LSM, you get an LSM that's entering their prime in John Geppert in free agency, and all you have to do is sign him to a contract and then you can assess the draft and use your draft picks on another player.
Yeah, I think that's what free agency is really for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the most part, teams have done a great job of going out and addressing a lot of the moves they've made, addressing a lot of the holes they have on their roster with the moves they've made to then be able to really add depth or supplemental help in the draft.
Speaking of other Utah Archers on the move, Deej, I'm not saying Nat St. Laurent listens to the pod every week. I cannot confirm nor deny. But I'm pretty sure a little podcast called Outside the Box last week brought to the table the potential fit of one Ryan Ogevin and one Jackson Morrill on this California Redwoods roster. And don't you know it, Jackson Morrill and Ryan Ogevin are now members of the California Redwoods.
We've said this time and time again. We can't keep saying it. The people listen. People like the things we have to say. Or maybe what's that one thing they'd be saying?
We
think alike, great friend, great minds think alike. Great minds think alike.
And the other thing that we're not technically allowed to say, but I'm going to say other people have said, we know ball.
I didn't say it. He didn't say it.
People are saying.
So, hey, maybe y'all should listen to us more often and watch the things we say come to life.
So, Deej, your thoughts on the new members of this offense with Augie signed through 2025 and Jackson Merrill signed through 2026?
Answered the questions I needed answered. What were we going to do about ex-attackman? Well, we went and got Jackson Merrill, and there's still, space for us to go and sign someone else in free agency or to hit someone in the draft. And the other question was, are we ever going to get a speed dodger? Ryan Ogevin definitely answers that question. He is a speed dodger. He's a great shooter as well. I think they both fit into the offense. Well, I think they fit around the offensive players. We don't know what that offensive scheme is going to be like now. With a new offensive coordinator coming in. So I think they fit very well with the offensive pieces that are there, and there's a lot of potential to move a lot of pieces around and do a lot of different things with this offense. But the bigger thing is that at least one of those attack positions is full, and there's a speed dodger on the roster. You can get back to that. This Redwoods team was probably at its best when they had a speed dodger on the roster. You can look back throughout the years, their best years, there was somebody pushing speed on the roster, and they haven't been the same since they let Jules go.
I was going to say, Jackson Merrill reminds me of what Jules was in 2019 and what he could provide for this offense.
I could see that. It just the vision he has from behind and his dodging ability should really help this offense open up.
And I think Jackson in an offense with Westberg is very exciting to think about.
Yes. I hear goals.
Yeah. Bang!
That's all I can hear.
I like both these signings a lot. And they're both young. Jackson's 27, Ryan's 26. So it fits that core of what you want to do in a recalibrating year. I wouldn't even say the Redwoods are like rebuilding. They're just recalibrating the roster almost because there's still a shit ton of talent on that team. And it's just finding the right pieces on the offensive side of the ball to fit the puzzle. A Utah Archer that's staying put, though, John Robbins, signed through 2026. I think that is very important for the Redwoods LSM, the Archers LSM room to have him back. And moving right along, we talked about all the Atlas boys. Cannons, I don't believe, signed anybody since we last recorded, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody's been signed. Looking right, they have so many free agents. Holy shit! But the Cannons did make a trade with the Carolina Chaos. That I'm not saying Brian Holman, Roy Colsey, and or Spencer Ford listen to the podcast, but I'm also not saying that Brian Holman, Roy Colsey, and or Spencer Ford listen to the podcast, because last week I brought to the table the potential for the Carolina Chaos to sign one Carter Parlett in free agency. Now, it ended up being a trade because it was before everything opened up, I think, full blown, that it was agreed upon. But I mean, that's one of my greatest shot calls of all time. Calling a player like Carter Parlett, who just a month ago almost was telling Utah Archers players that he doesn't even play in this league, gets traded along with Chris Aslanian to the Carolina Chaos in exchange for Carolina's highest third-round pick in the 2026 PLL draft. I got to say, I like this trade for both teams, but I also like this being kind of the first peek behind the curtain of how Spencer Ford is going to rebuild this Chaos roster to fit Roy Colsey's system.
Yeah, I like the gumption to go out and make a trade for one guy who has proven that he can be helpful on the offensive end, and Chris Huslanian, and how he is a force that can be used down low, but also can be up in the midfield, a great dodger, a great shooter. But she also went and got a guy that has absolutely nothing to play for, nothing to lose. Like, he's just out there because he loves lacrosse. He's looking for an opportunity. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, he's going to go back to doing what he's been doing. He's nothing but energy, and he's out there to have a good time. That's great energy to bring to your team for training camp. It's a great opportunity for a guy to kind of just shine like he did in the Champ Series and earn himself a roster spot. But I also think he fits the personality of the guys that are currently on Chaos and how they view the game and how they come into a game. So I think he'll fit into the locker room great, which is another part of making trades and signing guys. So far, I think they've done a great job of kind of knowing who they have on the roster and looking to fill the holes while also matching up personalities with who they have in the locker room already.
Yeah, and I think looking at just knowing your draft picks too, and I'm trying to remember where the Chaos got multiple third rounders from. But I think it's smart by Spencer Ford to be like, hey, I don't have to give up a draft pick in this year's draft. We still need all 4 of these draft picks. So to utilize a future draft pick in the 3rd round, I think is super smart, especially when you have multiple. That's good GMing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he's being signed as a GM. I think that splitting this role for them is going to work out great. And I think it will only be a matter of time before we see that work out for the other teams, as the Chaos are going to be back on top pretty soon, in my opinion, just with the work that they're going to be able to do together.
Yeah, so I like this move a lot for both teams, and I think this is the perfect spot for Carter Parlett to get his PLL career up and off the ground. Getting to play alongside Ian McKay in that short stick D midi room. Pat Resch re-signed since we last recorded as well. I love this move for Carter Parlett's career, and shout out to the boy. Just followed us on Instagram as well. Real recognize real, as the kids say.
I mean, we are the realists.
And like I said, Pat Resch re-signed with the Chaos. Sergio Perkovic also re-signs through 2025. I don't know if I view that as a surprise, but I will say Perk 30 revived his career quite a bit last year in Carolina. And I think a little continuity for him is good. And I think it also just tells you a little bit more about what Roy Colsey wants to do offensively. And having Sergio Perkovic back, I think, is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I think Serge is he found himself a little bit last year at the beginning of the year, and as you continue to give him opportunities, he's a guy that as long as he's on the field, he gets an open shot and he has an opportunity to make a play. He's going to make one every now and then. So you kind of just got to keep putting him in the right spots, and he'll come through for you.
On top of that, moving on from the Chaos to the Denver Outlaws, who we hinted at could be one of the scarier teams in the PLL this summer. I am fully ready to commit. The Denver Outlaws are going to be incredibly terrifying this summer to opposing teams. Mike Manley is back through 2025. Jesse Bernhardt is back through 2025. Eric Law is back through 2025. Justin Anderson is re-up through 2027. It is reported, not fully confirmed, but Nick Grill is going to be back with the Denver Outlaws. We talked about Logan Wisnauskas being back. This team is terrifying. They are terrifying in the best way possible because they are going to be really fucking good in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, and they're only going to be continue to get better over the years. Obviously, we saw the trades they've made and the signings they've made. The main thing is they're still one of the youngest teams in the league, and then you get Eric Law coming back, having that veteranism along with Mike Manley. There's an opportunity for this team to be led by the right guys, while still having all the young guys putting in the most work and kind of leading that charge on the field because they're in their prime athletically. This team is built for success. Just the question is, can they handle, the brutality of the season so quickly? And what is coaching like throughout the year? I mean, coaching in this league is a big part of it. Can Pseudo get them to where they need to be to, compete for a championship?
Yeah, and I think just the continuity, we talked about how they were a young team last year, a lot of new pieces, a lot of just kind of building camaraderie with the roster with so many draft picks. Now you've got that. You've got your veteran leaders in Bernhardt and Manley back again after last year. We were sitting in that press conference room, walked out of it, and thought Mike Manley was hanging the cleats up. I would have banked on it. And I'm happy he's not, because Mike Manley's such a fun player to watch and be around and get to talk to, after games and everything. I would have sworn up and down he was hanging him up. I'm happy he's back. That defense is one of the best in the league. And you look at their free agents that are still available, there's still a lot of work to be done, whether or not they want to bring guys back like a Will Haas. Owen McElroy obviously was your starting goalie last year. Do you want to bring him back? Sean Scanoni is signed through this year, I believe, under contract. Eli Salama is still out there as a free agent. There's still some pieces that the Denver Outlaws have to take care of, but man, are they going to be nasty in 2025. And on top of that, looking at their draft, I mean, they don't have a first-round pick this year. I'm trying to remember where that ended up going. Oh, Pat Cav trade. So they don't have a first-round pick. They pick third in the second round. They pick third in the third round. And then they pick third in the fourth round. They could go all defense in this draft to prepare for the inevitable retirements of Bernhardt and Manley, and then be ready to have them in the pipeline, ready to, it won't shock me if Pseudo goes defense in the second and third round to get guys to learn under those two and then have them ready to rock and roll for 2026.
I could see that. I mean, it makes sense. Why not? And they're in the position to be progressing every year, getting better, but staying at a high level because they're so young. And they're growing together, and they're watching each other get better. They're feeding off of each other. Watching a core grow together is how you see the success that's going to lay out.
So big time moves there for the Denver Outlaws. And I think that's all the moves that have been made since we last recorded, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, it's been a wild first week of free agency in the PLL. And that's the thing too. This is just the start of free agency. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to what could happen. Rob Pennell is still a free agent. You still have guys out there. You look across the board. Dylan Malloy, still a free agent with the Atlas. Pat Aslanian is still a free agent with the Cannons. Jake Pulver is still a free agent, a marquee defenseman. Cade Van Raphorst, still a free agent. Matt Kavanaugh, still a free agent. That's somebody that could come in as a veteran presence. CJ Costabile. Oh, and we didn't even mention, it hasn't been made official yet, but Zach Geddes is allegedly joining the Denver Outlaws. So that's another piece that we talked about last week. Glacini's still a free agent. Jules is still a free agent. Jared Newman, still a free agent. There's so many names out there that are still on the open market. Jake Higgins at the short stick D-midi spot. Jake Richard, Thomas McConvey, Mikey Boehm. There's names out there. And another interesting one is Petey LaSalle at that faceoff spot. Chaney is still a free agent. Brett Kennedy is still a free agent. Like, we haven't even sniffed the beginning of what this free agent frenzy is going to be in the PLL. And we're still waiting for arguably the biggest domino, and that's Jared Newman. We still have to see what ends up happening there, because I don't think we know where Jake Pulver or a Cade Van Raphorst end up going, whether they stay with the Cannons or end up moving, until Jared Newman signs. Jared Newman is one of those players in the PLL that sets the market. He gets signed, okay, that's the domino falling. Now these other guys can go sign. It's very much like baseball when we were waiting for, years ago, for Bryce Harper and Manny Machado to sign. We were waiting for Shohei Ohtani to sign. Jared is that caliber of player as a defenseman in the PLL that sets the tone for the other guys at his position to sign after he gets his.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I think I don't think I'm not sure the league is quite at that level yet. And I only say that because you're not really like competing with salaries and like that kind of thing. Like,
well,
the
I'm
numbers.
more so saying it from a standpoint of just like teams that need that player. Like, I think if you're a GM, you'd rather have the opportunity to sign Jared Newman if the opportunity presented itself, and not that Cade or Jake Pulver, in this instance of bringing up those three guys at that position, are quote unquote downgrades. But I think Jared is that type of player that, like, if it's like, hey, would you like to sign Jared Newman? 8 GMs would say yes.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a tough question.
All while me saying this, I still think Jared will end up back with Carolina.
I don't really see him fitting too many other schemes personally, in my opinion.
And the only other one was Denver, that I could see like the real shakeup happening and him go pair up with JT Giles Harris. But now that Manley and Bernhard are back, that's kind of out of the question, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big spot, in my opinion, that he could fit. But I just think his ties with Carolina and obviously with Blaze are far too entrenched, and he'll be back in Carolina before we know. I think it's just working out. Contract length, money, all that good stuff. But it's going to be fascinating to see where the other two go in Pulver and Cade Van Raphorst. Do they both go back to the Cannons? Does one go back? Where do they end up? I think that's a fascinating little wrinkle to two very marquee defensemen in the PLL being free agents.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of dominoes are going to fall once guys start to sign. And to me, I think it'll all make sense where guys end up falling because of it.
Yeah, and it's just week one. And I know I got a tweet sent at me earlier today. Also, before I get to that tweet, another signing that happened. Nathan Liberty signed with the New York Atlas through 2025, which our guy Dan Arestia said that Trevor obviously has been dealing with injuries indoors, had that injury at the end of the PLL season. So it's more depth. I don't think they had anybody else under contract either through going into this offseason. So big time pickup for them to kind of get a new face in there, a little bit of youth as well. But Nicky Rubenstein, hopefully you listen to the pod, brother, tweeted at the following people: Dan Arestia, Rosie, Kyle Harrison, Dukes, myself, Dom Starja, Paul Rabel, and Mike Rabel. Number one, I just want to say thank you for including me in such a star-studded cast of lacrosse minds there. He tweeted the following: how the hell is Tim Troutner not on a PLL roster? 3-time All-Star, 2021 All-Star MVP, 2019 Rookie of the Year, 2-time goalie competition winner, 4-0 as a starter, All-Star last year. We've had our thoughts on Timmy on this show. Still think he's a wildly talented player, and I think last year he really bounced back in a big way to start the year with the Atlas. 4-0, like Nicky mentioned there, was an all-star because of it. And I think he got comfortable. I think he was playing a lot more loose because there wasn't as much pressure on him. And it was just like a prove it deal. He signed a 1-year deal with the Atlas. Let's go see what you can do. And I think he proved himself that he can still play in this league. The big question, though, is how is he not on a roster? Number one, he's a free agent. Okay, it's week 1 of free agency. So he's just hitting the open market. Number 2, let's go around the league, Deej. We've got the Carolina Chaos. Blaze Reardon's a starter. Austin Kaut will more than likely be back with the team as well. We go to the Denver Outlaws. Sean Scanoni, Owen McElroy are there. We go to the Utah Archers. It's Brett Dobson, Nick Wishuta. We go to the California Redwoods. Jack Kelly and Chase Earlin. We go to the, who am I forgetting? Let's see. Let's go to New York. Liam Entenman and nobody. We go to the Maryland Whipsnakes. Kyle Bernlor just retired. You have Brendan Krebs. You have Lil Mark, who was on the Champ Series roster. You go to the Water Dogs. You have Dylan Ward, Matt DeLuca. And you go to the Cannons, and you have Gittleman, and you have, obviously, Kirsty. It's not going to shock me if Timmy's back with the Atlas as their backup. But outside of that,
There's really nowhere to go.
You tell me where Tim fits on a roster. Maybe and I don't even think it's in the question that he would sign him, but obviously Gittleman's getting up in age, but he's such a presence in that locker room that Brian Holman is willing to have Adam Gittleman, who can still play, but rather have him on the roster as vibes guy, as veteran presence in the locker room and a mentor to Kirsty than anything else. There's no real spot. Maybe the Whipsnakes say, hey, let's sign Timmy and have a full-fledged goalie competition. Krebs, Timmy, Will Mark, see how it happens. I don't think that's out of the question, but it's not going to shock me if, we're sitting here next week or the week after and Tim Troutner signs another 1-year deal with the Atlas.
Yeah, I mean, that seems most likely. Like, just most teams don't need one at the moment. I don't know if he ever returns to the Redwoods, even if that spot was open. And then there's to me, it's either Atlas or he's phased out of the league. There just isn't really space for him elsewhere right now.
And I mean, he's still young. Like, he's 27. Like, he's in his athletic prime. I think from all accounts, Tim was beloved in that Atlas locker room. I think he did a lot of what he did, when he got pushed to the bench with the Redwoods and kind of being that iPad guy, being, a second set of eyes for Jack Kelly and Nat. I think he did a lot for Liam last year and was a mentor to Liam. So it won't shock me if Tim is back, with the Atlas. It makes the most sense. I think Pressler really liked what Tim brought to the team, and it's week 1 of free agency. It's not that big a deal that out of the gates the New York Atlas signed Tim Troutner. That's not one of their pressing needs at the moment. And again, it won't shock me if we're sitting here next week and Tim Troutner's back in an Atlas uniform.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just realistically the best option for him.
Yeah. And, could potentially down the line, Gittleman retires. He ends up being a backup for Kirsty. Could it be, the Outlaws move on from a Scanoni or something and he goes to the Outlaws and battles for a starting spot? Absolutely. There's so many possibilities, and who knows, down the line, a potential expansion team comes in. Timmy's maybe 29 or 30 and that team needs a goalie. Tim Troutner's there. I think there's still a lot of lacrosse on the tires for Tim Troutner, and last year enhanced that a lot with how he played in those first 4 games. And I think he's more than likely going to end up on the New York Atlas again. So that's me shooting my shot once again. And we'll see if coaches and GMs around the league are listening to this week's episode of the pod and what signings we get next week. Very excited to see how it all shakes out, though. Before we move to full-fledged diving into the college slate, Deej, I'm going to set things up for you and give you the floor.
All right, people. Thank you for coming. I gathered you all here for this press conference because I made some questionable decisions on the interweb last week. More specifically, platform that we all know as Twitter, but now goes as X. In the date in question, Saturday, March 1st, I was watching the Richmond Cornell lacrosse game. Richmond was doing their thing, balling. And what made me upset about it was whenever any other game like this is going on, a lower mid-major type team is beating a better team, a highly ranked team, a number 3 team in the country, the cross Twitter is firing. Oh, are they going to upset him? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? You're going to be talking about him. Oh, this guy's balling. No words were being said about Richmond. No words. So I took it upon myself to try and start that conversation. I was like, hey, lacrosse Twitter, we going to talk about Richmond or what? Boom. Cornell scores. Bang. Cornell scores again. Bang. Cornell scores again. Before we know it, Richmond loses by 3. Richmond, I'm sorry again. I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart. I do honestly feel like if I didn't say anything, maybe things were different. But then again, that's maybe because things still have to happen on the floor, on the field. It's about playing the game. That is what it comes down to. But I do want to defend myself real fast. Why did I put out the tweet in the first place? Okay. It wasn't about that game in particular. It's about Richmond as a whole this year. They've already upset Virginia. They were playing very good lacrosse up until, and I think they're still playing very good lacrosse. They were literally beating Cornell and almost beat them. They're ranked in the top 20. They're looking like the best mid-major-ish lacrosse team in the country. Why wouldn't we be talking about Richmond? There's zero reason not to talk about Richmond. That is what I was really getting at, is the fact that we weren't really saying anything about Richmond as a collective, as a whole, just about their season in general, not that specific game. But this has provided a fantastic opportunity for us. The DJ curse is real. It's alive. We're running with it. Yep. Doing it. Now, a fan of the team can help their team out. Make sure I don't DJ curse them at all. If you have already subscribed to us and you are a fan of a college lacrosse team, tweet it at us, put it in the comments, whatever, however you got to get it to us. I will be sure to only say positive things about things that have already been done in the game, not do any predictions, things of that sort, to jinx your team. But for everybody out there that ain't covered yet, you on the chopping block, big dog. You are on my list. Saying anything I can to get you riled up. Saying anything I can. Make sure you got some bad juju coming. You're going to lose until I say you're not going to lose. So, y'all have the instructions you need. I don't take back my tweet. I do still think we need to talk about Richmond lacrosse. I think we need to talk about it a lot and how well they have been playing and what we are going to expect of them over the next 2 months and if they'll be playing come May. But if you don't want the DJ curse, your options are in front of you. Any last questions? No? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Hopefully I don't have to do another press conference like this anytime soon.
Kyle Bennett from the Outside the Box podcast. I do have a question for you, DJ. Number one, would you like to apologize to the Richmond Spiders lacrosse program for jinxing them in their game against?
I will, in fact, apologize to them again, Richmond. I tweeted at you shortly after that. I literally said, "I'm sorry, Richmond." Or no, I said, "Richmond, I'm sorry," with a sad emoji face. I meant that. I just said it not too long ago when I was giving my press conference, and I'll say it again. I am sorry, Richmond men's lacrosse. You were this close to pulling off a fantastic upset, and it was my fault, partially. I take the blame for my part in this. I will not do it to you again.
One follow-up to that, sir. Again, Kyle Bennett from the Outside the Box podcast. Is it fair to assess that, obviously, along with your allegiance to the University of Michigan lacrosse program, could we see DJ Hughes, in turn of these recent events, find himself rooting for Richmond lacrosse to succeed the rest of the season, and you being on the Spiders bandwagon the rest of the?
Yes, I'm all for Richmond Spiders. I think I've been on their bandwagon, and I made an unfortunate mistake of not being clear in my tweet at the time of the tweet, and maybe even putting out that tweet at that time and thinking about when to send that tweet. I think that would have changed some things, but I'm a full supporter of Richmond lacrosse. I have been a full supporter of Richmond lacrosse for a few years now. I would love to see them continue to have success throughout this year. But what I will say, as you brought up Michigan lacrosse, everything I say about Michigan lacrosse, prediction, preemptive, if it already happened, whatever, does not fall under this matter. There's no announcer curse when it comes to Michigan sports with me. I'm just a Michigan fan, and everything they do pisses me off when it's not the right thing. So I'm going to say a lot of things. And if they're winning a game, I'm probably going to make a preemptive tweet and then really be upset at myself for doing so. But I think everybody does that with their sports teams, so it's okay.
One final question, sir. Kyle Bennett, once again from the Outside the Box podcast. Would you like to address the Stick Talk podcast coming for your throat on their platform while addressing your tweeting announcer curse?
First off, I want to say, Coach Shane, we don't know each other enough. You know, we do interact with each other on the interweb, on Twitter, and it's getting there. So none of this is directed at you. Brian, Diggs, Scotty, y'all supposed to be my homies. Y'all are supposed to be my dogs. And y'all waited zero amount of time to throw me out there. Didn't even let the people get over it before bringing it back up. Talking about, oh, Richmond. Well, it was DJ. Whoa. What am I catching strays for? Y'all could have just talked about the game, been what it was, and moved on. The people that didn't know that I fucked the game up, people that didn't know that I jinxed Richmond, did not have to know. But here y'all go, telling everybody and their mom that I'm out here putting jinxes on teams. Crazy work. What's even crazier is you didn't invite me on to defend myself. You didn't even let me come on so that the people knew who I was before you slandered my name to the people. The people at Stick Talk that didn't hear of OTB before now know DJ from OTB by fucking up. See what you're doing out here? Messing with my sauce, dog. Y'all supposed to be my homies. Scotty, Diggs, the picture we took in Philly, crazy work right now. Brian, the DMs that we sent back and forth talking about lacrosse, talking about football, cracking jokes about people on Twitter. Crazy bag right now. But it's cool. I already told y'all when I get on there, hot takes flying. And at this point, I'm baking y'all too. Straight bake work. Because y'all just did me dirty and I got to get back. Got to let y'all fans know how I gets down. I'm going to come with the facts. Going to come with the good knowledge. Going to come with all the good takes, lacrosse, all that. But I'm also coming full rampage wreckage on that with y'all. Because y'all woke up the beast. I was chilling. And here y'all go slandering me. We both got slandered in the same week, my guy. This is crazy. OTB on the come up though. That's how I'm feeling. I appreciate y'all giving us a shout out, getting some more people knowing what OTB are. Man, you could have did it in a nicer way.
We are so fucking stupid.
That's about to go triple plat.
Oh my god.
Triple goddamn plat.
Holy shit, that was hilarious. Yeah, that is great. I didn't think about it. We both caught straights.
Own that with OTB, bro.
Holy shit, that's so funny. What'd they say? You ain't making it unless you got haters.
We got him. What Drewski say? Hey, we got him.
Oh, me, you're like that Jack Harlow Drewski. Look how sweet it is.
I swear to God.
Holy shit. That was hilarious. Well done. Well done. Let's get into our college breakdown for the week with Deej. It is brought to you by our friends over at 47 brand. We love 47 brand here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. I'm rocking that Super Bowl 59 Super Bowl hat from 47 brand right now. If you're not watching on the YouTube, genuinely best hats, sickest apparel for all your favorite sports leagues. And of course, it's the college segment. So we always like to take a nice little look through all the college apparel on 47 Brand's website. Deej, there's multiple colleges that have been out here this week in the headlines for a multitude of reasons from media members in the lacrosse space. I'll give you the choice this week because 3 came to mind. Do we want to look through the Big Red Cornell apparel? Do we want to look through the Richmond Spiders? Or do we want to look through, as our good pal Duke said, the Fairleigh Dickinson of college lacrosse, Army West Point?
I think there is only one right answer for me to choose this week. It's not pandering. It's just the right thing to do. The Richmond Spiders are the team for the week.
So the funny part is about this ad read is we don't show you the website, but you can use our link in the description and check out everything that 47 Brand has to offer from their Richmond Spiders collection, which they have some sick shirts. I love the Richmond Spider just logo. It's so cool. It's very Spider-Man-esque, and that may just be my inner nerd in me, but I love the Richmond Spider look. They've got some sweet shirts available on 47 Brand's website. Check out everything that they have on their website. Gear up. Baseball season's right around the corner. Check out all the college apparel that they have from over 200 schools. Use our link in the description. Get free shipping on all orders when you shop with our link at our friends at 47 and you join the 47 family. Once again, use our link in the description. Shop over 200 plus colleges and check out their apparel. Use our link. Get free shipping on all orders with our friends at 47 Brand. Deej, another week of college lacrosse is on the horizon. How are we feeling going into this weekend?
This is part of the year that I feel excited about. March and April are the best times for college lacrosse. We get lots of great matchups, and there's tons of them on all week for us to watch. We're right edging on the beginning of conference play. So there's going to be some good games starting to go down. Penn State and Cornell are going to be on the field together. You got Air Force and Duke. Jacksonville and High Point has become a very fun game to watch. Michigan and Harvard has become a good game to watch the last couple of years. Delaware, who has shocked a lot of people so far this year, taking on that train that is Maryland after their big win over Notre Dame over the weekend. Shout out to Princeton, who had a fantastic weekend last year, taking down both UNC and Duke. Duke taking down Penn as well. UNC took down Penn as well. So ACC 1-1 on the weekend in that challenge for both teams. Princeton comes out 2-0 and Penn comes out 0-2. But I thought that was a great weekend from Princeton, and they were able to go out and show just how good they're going to be this year. You get North Carolina with Hofstra, Rutgers and Princeton, Villanova, Penn, and Ohio State, Notre Dame, all happening on Saturday as well. Townsend and Virginia are going to go at it as well as Denver and Yale. I am going to get on over to ESPN as well. Get some times for some of these games. I wish they gave times on NCAA.
Well, while you look that up, I will.
Okay, I'm here. My Richmond boys kicking things off at 11:30 a.m. UMBC on ESPN Plus. You got ACC Extra at 11 a.m. with North Carolina. The noon games start Denver and Yale on ESPN Plus. Long Island and Queens going to be on ESPN Plus. Utah and Dartmouth, ESPN Plus. Same thing with Penn State, Cornell, Michigan, Harvard are both ESPN Plus at noon. Air Force, Duke, a noon face-off as well. 1 p.m. games starting. Townsend and Virginia, 1 p.m. Delaware and Maryland, 1 p.m. as well. 2 p.m. we got Notre Dame and Ohio State on ACC Network. High Point in Jacksonville as well. We got some 3:30 starts with Army and Holy Cross, Villanova and Penn, both on ESPN Plus. Rutgers and Princeton on ESPN Plus on Saturday at 7 p.m. as well. On Sunday, only 2 games, St. Joe and Drexel at noon, 2 p.m. ESPNU, the game of the weekend. It's Diggs and K18 versus Brian and the rest of Syracuse. John Hop, Syracuse, going down. This one's going to be at the Dome, JMA Wireless Dome. Going to be the game of the weekend. Going to be really exciting. Be parked in front of your TV. Have ESPNU on. If you're in the area, go to the JMA Wireless Dome. This will be one of the best games of the year, and I'm really excited for that game. Looking throughout the week, St. John and Rutgers play on Tuesday. Duke and Providence, Penn State and Robert Morris on Wednesday. So really we're looking Saturday for the big day, and then we get the one really exciting game on Sunday.
And then the TLN College Pick'em games in the PLL app. It is Penn State and Cornell, Michigan and Harvard, Ohio State and Notre Dame, Utah and Dartmouth, and then Hopkins and Syracuse.
I'm not confident in Michigan, but go blue. Just being honest.
Now your new thing's got to be go next, go blue, go Spiders. Yo, if Richmond does not hook you up with like a care package from all of this,
that would be so lit. I will wear the fuck out of that shit. I really would. I really would.
Like, they need to have you just get behind them as the champion of their season the rest of the way.
I'm so here for it. I will be the biggest Richmond fan. I will add their games to my list of games to watch every week.
He's going to add them to his favorite teams in the ESPN app.
Bingo is there. We are Richmond Spider fans for life.
Oh, that's so funny. They need to hook you up. You apologize. You held a press conference for them.
And I'm never going to do that to them again. Ever.
Crazy. Hopefully we get the invite on Stick Talk soon.
They don't care about us.
Nah, them boys love us. They just They just be forgetting sometimes our DMs are always open.
That ain't gonna happen.
I think it's because
I'm not sliding on them. They gonna have to offer it to me.
What happens first? We get on Stick Talk, or the Buffalo Bandits follow us back on Twitter?
We get on Stick Talk. You're hilarious. You're hilarious. You got jokes.
We get a preview clip next week on Stick Talk.
Outside the box joins the crew.
I think they're genuinely embargoing us because I never played lacrosse.
Oh well.
I think they're holding that against me.
Nah, I don't think so.
Until for proven otherwise.
They know we know ball.
Because it's not that I'm white, because Poolskis was on there. That boy held it down.
Yeah, maybe you are in the way. Let me see what I can do.
He said, "Let me see what I can do for you."
I might be able to get you in. Might be able to pull one of them. Hey, he with me. It's cool. He with me.
We are so fucking stupid.
Bro, we are the funniest people ever.
Oh, shit.
Can't tell me I'm not.
It's so funny.
Top 10.
Yo, I swear to God.
The real ones know.
Here's my pitch. Our college draft extravaganza just has to be OTB crossover with Stick Talk this year.
All right.
That's gotta be this year's crew.
I'm here for it.
Do you know how fucking funny that draft reaction would be?
Dog. And I can't wait for somebody like that there's gonna be somebody that gets drafted that only like one person like really knows about, and they're just about to be waxing poetic, and everybody's just gonna be looking like,
nah, the real thing is gonna be Nat's gonna agree to come on after the draft. He's gonna come on and tell Scotty to get his ass off the stream. I ain't talking to that motherfucker leaves.
Oh my God. He wouldn't do it.
Could you imagine though?
That would be hilarious. Be like, all right, we're gonna put Scotty in timeout.
Scotty goes in timeout. Diggs is still there, and he's like, get that fake ass fan out of here too.
Hey, don't you be running with the Bulls? Yeah, get to stepping. Get to stepping.
Oh my God, that would be fucking hilarious. I would piss myself laughing.
Actually, like that would make my night.
Oh man. That's all we got for you guys on this episode. See what happens when we do OTB After Dark. It's just absolute scenes, baby. We're so back. If we ever did like fucking quote unquote radio, like if we ever had like a serious channel, OTB would have to be After Dark.
Yes. Yes.
We'd have our time slots OTB 2 a.m.
People be like, is they cool? No.
The hell is wrong with them fools?
A lot. Let's start with sleep deprivation.
How much time you got?
Because if it's not a lot, you might want to keep going.
Oh, man. That's all we got for you guys on this one. Make sure you're following us on the socials at OTB Lax Pod across every social media platform. Follow DJ SCS_next great. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. Follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Subscribe to the motherfucking pod, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave us a 5-star review. Goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow, plus every show on our network. And of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show every week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. Leave a like on the video, drop a comment in the comment section, and click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. And check out shootoutforsoldiers.com/events to get registered for one of their 2025 events on their calendar this year, including you still got a smidge of time for Houston, Texas on March 8th and 9th happening this weekend. Looking forward to seeing everything coming out of Houston, Texas with Shootout for Soldiers this weekend. Plus their entire slate this spring and summer is going to be absolutely electric. Sign up, shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. Find out how to get involved, become a sponsor, how to register, find an event, all linked in the description, shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. This has been episode number 365. There is now an episode of OTB for every day of the year for you to listen to now. Episode number 365 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course, viewable on YouTube. And this week, we were catching strays outside the box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, for all our haters, I'm your boy, KB. We'll catch you here next week. Enjoy this weekend of lacrosse, and we'll see what comes to us next week. But until then, we're getting the heck up out of here. Peace, people.